The world is a very different place after the tariffs have been imposed by the Americans. What does it mean for you and your portfolio?
This is Make Better Wealth Decisions, a podcast about financial blind spots, decision making, and how the reality of higher rates, global tensions, and tariff instability impact your investments. I'm your host, John Goey, a portfolio manager with Design Securities in Toronto.
On April 2nd, the world changed. It would be very difficult for anybody to properly contemplate what actually happened because there's really no precedent for it in modern times. We've now seen the largest economy in the world slap tariffs on virtually every nation on the pretense of them being reciprocal tariffs. One of the words that you hear all the time with the Americans is the word rhino. The Republicans used to call people that were not part of MAGA rhinos, which was Republican in name only. These tariffs are reciprocal in name only. They are rhino tariffs because they are not reciprocal whatsoever. They are simply made up based on what Donald Trump and his team of advisors thinks can be sold in terms of a net differential between imports and exports from different countries around the world. It has nothing, absolutely nothing to do pre-existing tariffs that existed between the United States and other countries. We're in a world where things can just be almost made up on a whim. And there's a real chance that this is not only a realignment of the economic world order, but also the geopolitical world order. One of the things that very few people seem to notice is that even though the Americans put tariffs on nearly 200 countries, it is instructive to note the very small number of countries that did not get tariffs imposed on them. Those countries include Russia and Belarus, in North Korea, and Cuba. Surprisingly, or perhaps not so surprisingly, those are the countries that voted with the United States in their refusal to condemn the Russian invasion of Ukraine a little over 3 years ago. So we all hope that you're paying attention right now because what is happening is that in real time, the, the configuration of who's whom and who can be aligned with whom else is changing. As an investor, you need to be extremely mindful of the fact that the world we grew up in, and in fact, even the world that we woke up in a week ago, no longer exists. We're now in a world where the United States cannot be trusted as an ally, as a trading partner, or really for anything, and that Donald Trump seems to be aligning himself with autocrats. And that then calls into question the even larger issue that a lot of people don't want to talk about, which is the elephant in the room. A lot of people think that what Trump is doing is crazy and insane and not really rational, but it might very well be that he has a longer term game plan. It's just not what any of us could even imagine. What if he wants to be an autocrat like Vladimir Putin? It's a very real chance now that Donald Trump is very deliberately blowing up the world economy, creating chaos in order to capitalize on that chaos, to act like a gangster and to maybe get tributes from corporate CEOs, just the way Vladimir Putin receives money from oligarchs in order to be able to make their lives easier. It seems to me that Donald Trump is using Vladimir Putin as a blueprint for what he wants to do with his life and what wants his legacy to be in the larger world in the history books. Be very careful as an investor. As we try to make better wealth decisions, we need to be mindful of the motives behind what Trump is doing. Oftentimes, the stated reason is very unlikely to be the real reason. And we need to be careful to see how this might all play out. It's entirely possible that things like traditional stocks have already been hammered, but other things that even do well in inflationary environment, hard assets, can be hurt. And we've seen things like resources and commodities and gold and so forth be hurt in the first week of April as these tariffs take effect and as the disruption becomes more and more acute. As a result, you should be very careful with how you invest. Obviously, you should always be diversifying within and throughout asset classes. Times like these, you might want to have more of an allocation toward income. If you've got some cash, you might want to keep your powder dry. but be careful out there. You need to understand that the world is different, and you need to invest in a way that takes into account the fact that things that were safe and things that were secure and normal and reliable before the second roll of 2025 may no longer be so safe and reliable going forward.
This podcast is not to be construed as offering specific investment advice. Please consult a qualified advisor before acting. My books, Stand Up to the Financial Services Industry and Bullshift, are available online. If you'd like to meet to discuss how the topics in this podcast affect you directly, please visit my website.